Wow, is it hot or what?
Hey, what's up guys? My name is Double Z and welcome to another Hearthstone related video. So recently a new expansion, or rather a new adventure for Hearthstone was released, and it's called the League of Explorers. I'm gonna let you guys see the trailer if you haven't seen it already.
We've traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
The League, Explorers League, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Want to come and join us?
Oh, yes!
So yeah, if you play Hearthstone, you understand that this is some pretty exciting stuff. There are 45 new cards split into 4 wings, and by now the first 2 wings were already released. So people are already fighting the bosses, completing the class challenges, getting the new cards, all that stuff. But in this video I'm going to review some of the cards from the set. Not all of them, just the ones I find most interesting and the ones I'm mostly excited about. So without further ado, let's get started with the top 5 LOE cards. For number 5 we have Tomb Pillager. 4 mana 5/4 with a death rattle, add a coin to your hand. This is a rogue class card. I think when you look at this card at first, you think, it's okay, not bad. Stats are kind of vanilla, because you don't really want a 4 health minion on turn 4, but this is acceptable because you get the death rattle, and if it had higher health, it would have been harder to get the actual death rattle. So as I was saying, at first this card seems okay, but when you actually think about it, it's really good. You can look at it as a 3 mana 5/4. I mean, yes, you have to pay up front for it to be a 3 mana 5/4, but still it pays off, and one of the reasons for that is the coin you get. In some other class, this wouldn't be such a good card, but rogues have so many ways to benefit from having the coin. There are so many combos. You can play this with a Violet Teacher on board, you can coin out your Shadowpan Rider, you can even combo it with the new rogue cards, the Unearthed Raptor, and get 2 coins. There is just so many possibilities, and overall I think this is a great card. Number 4 is a Paladin class card. 4 mana 3/4, it's called Keeper of Uldaman. When it comes into play, it sets a minion's attack and health to 3. I'm actually pretty disappointed that this card is for Paladins only. I think it would be so good in some other classes, and I'm not quite sure that Paladins needed a good card like this, because even without it, they were dominating the meta game for the past month or so. But anyway, I think the real potential in this card is in its flexibility. You can play this on a giant, similar to a Aldor Peacekeeper, but you basically get to lower its health as well. And on the other hand, you can use it on your own minions and activate, for example, Nerubian Egg, or just basically any other minion that has attack that is lower than 3. And you know, there's a lot of those, but I'm not really sure you would play those type of minions in a Pally deck, and that's why I wish it was a neutral card. But yeah, you can even use Keeper of Uldaman on your Silverhand recruits, in which case you treat this card as a mini Quartermaster. Overall, a really flexible card that is definitely going to see play in Constructed, and in Arena it might be even better. For number 3 we have Reno Jackson. Now this card has really shaken up the meta since the first wing of LOE was released. It brought back the old school control decks, it crushed all the aggro, and it really brought some positive vibes to Hearthstone. Okay, so what does Reno Jackson do? Reno Jackson is a 6 mana 4/6 neutral legendary that has a bell cry that fully heals your hero, but you have to have no more than 1 of any card in the rest of your deck. So at first you look at this card and think, oh, this is pretty cool, but it's probably not gonna see play because of the drawback of having no more than 1 of any card in your deck. Well, turns out that's not even a drawback, and it turns out it's actually worth it. So to sum up, you can play this card in two types of decks. You can either have no duplicates in your deck, you'll be able to play this card on turn 6 against aggro and get to heal your hero for basically 20, which I have experienced by the way, and it was pretty awesome. Or you can play this guy in fatigue decks. For example, Freeze Mage. You control the board with freezing and doomsayers, you ground out your opponent, and when you basically have no more cards in your deck, you play Reno and win the fatigue war. So that's pretty good. Overall, I think this card is game changing, and I really hope it sticks around in the meta, because I really enjoyed the absence of aggro right now. Place number 2 goes to Unearthed Raptor. Rogue class card, 3 mana 3/4, so judging by the stats, even without this awesome bell cry, this would be a strong minion by itself, but the bell cry is what makes this card so good. You get to choose a friendly minion and gain a copy of its death rattle. Oh man, imagine that. You go turn 2 Nerubian Egg, turn 3 this guy, and it's basically GG. Your opponent will have to put in a lot of work to get the board back. You can also play this with Piloted Shredder, Loot Hoarder, Honey Creeper, basically all kinds of death rattle minions. And I think that's actually going to happen when this card gets released. I think that this card is good enough that it will be a card that it will have decks based around it. And I can't wait to try it out. I think it's a really cool card overall. It might actually be one of my favorite cards in the game. Though I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't see play and if it was too slow for the meta, but I really hope that's not the case, because I'm really looking forward to it. Okay guys, so we made it to the top. I think you can probably tell which card is number 1 on my top 5 list, but I'll say it anyways. Bronzebeard. Yes! 3 mana neutral legendary, 2/4 stats, and an awesome ability. Your bell cries triggered twice. So I want to say something before I say anything. Does that make any sense? Okay, so I assume that most people wouldn't agree with me that this card should be at the top of the list because it's just a 3 mana 2/4. It won't see play in the competitive part of Hearthstone. It's just a fun card and it's not really consistent and so on. But the point of this card is just to have fun. And sure, you're not gonna see this guy in a Hearthstone tournament, because in tournaments people will still play Handlock, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Handlock is a completely fine deck and it's probably gonna win you more games than this guy. But the amount of value, the amount of fun you can have with this guy is just huge. I think this is just what Hearthstone needed, and this is definitely the card I was expecting the most. And that's the reason I put it at the top of my list. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, I want to mention some cards that go really well with Bronzebeard. So we have Quartermaster that now gives your Silverhand recruit +4/+4 if you have this guy on the board. So if you, for example, only have one guy on the board and you play Quartermaster, you make it into a 5/5, so that's pretty cool. Then we have Coldite Oracle, which is specifically good in mill decks. You play this guy, both players draw 4 cards, then you play Gang Up, and you basically get to mill your opponents twice faster than you usually would. Next we have Twilight Drake. This guy can get a lot of health even though you don't have a lot of cards in your hand. Darnassus Aspirant ramps you twice as faster, and there are some other cards I want to mention as well, which are, I think, self-explanatory. So there is Iron Juggernaut, Bomb Lover, Tuskar Totemic, Coghammer, the Mistcaller, Fire Elemental, and even the new cards like Lease Starseeker and Unearthed Raptor. Overall, I think this card has a really cool design. I think it will change the game forever, and it will definitely have the most amazing highlights. So I really look forward to seeing that. Anyways, I think that's enough about the top 5 cards. Make sure you guys leave your opinion in the comments on what you would change about this list, do you like it or not, and stuff like that. But now, I'm going to move on to some other interesting cards from the expansion. So to start off, we have Mounted Raptor, 3 mana 3/2 for druids, death rattle summon a random 1-cost minion, and it's also a beast. So it's basically like a shredder with -1 for everything. Even the cost of the death rattle minion is reduced by 1. So the reason this guy is better than Shredder is because it cannot summon a minion that is bad for you. For example, Doomsayer, or maybe Mana Wraith, I don't know. The worst case scenario for this guy is a 0-1 Blood Imp. I'm pretty sure that's the worst thing you can get. But the best case scenario could be better than the mounted Raptor himself. For example, injured Qualdeer. When you get this guy, the Battlecry obviously doesn't go off, so you get a 2-4. And that's why I think this card is strong by itself and has a lot of potential. Next on the list is Summoning Stone. 5 mana 0-6 with a really interesting ability that was actually taken from one of the previous tavern brawls we had. So whenever you cast a spell, summon a random minion of the same cost. That's pretty cool, right? But when the card came out, everyone was like, this is never gonna see play, it's too slow, and it's just going to get run over by aggro, and so on. Well, turns out the meta has really slowed down since this expansion. And that kinda makes sense, right? Because now aggro decks get crushed by Reno decks. And because of that, this card actually sees play in some decks. For example, so-called Stone Mage or Stone Rogue, and so on. Basically, these decks revolve around surviving the early game, getting this guy out on the board, and getting some value from the random minions you get from casting spells. So I think this card could be really interesting in those decks. Of course, that's the only type of deck that will include this card, because it's basically a 5 mana minion with 0 attack. It can't really be played on turn 5 without some follow-up. That's the bad side of the card, but overall, definitely interesting design. Next, we have a Lease Starseeker. This card isn't released yet, so we don't really know how it works and how good it is. I mean, they showed how it works at BlizzCon, but people haven't actually tried it out. Anyway, it's a 4 mana neutral legendary, 3/5 stats, and a Battlecry that shuffles a map to the Golden Monkey into your deck. When you draw the map to the Golden Monkey, it then shuffles the Golden Monkey into your deck. And when you actually get to play the glorious Golden Monkey, you get something pretty special. That's why they had to have this build up for it. Golden Monkey is a 4 mana 6/6 with taunts that has a Battlecry of replacing your hand and your deck with legendary minions. Wow, sounds pretty cool, right? It sure does, but is that even viable for making a deck that revolves around this card? I'm not really sure. The card seems a little too flashy to me, and I'm not really sure that having all legendary minions in your deck is even a good idea, because most of them have a high mana cost and you're probably gonna have to play them one at a time, and that's pretty slow. But I'm not sure, maybe I'm mistaken, and we'll just have to see. But definitely an interesting card that will also have some awesome highlights. So something that this expansion also provided was some old school Murloc Synergy cards. I was pretty excited to see that, and I think I'll be trying out some of the Murloc decks. Anyway, first we have Anything Can Happen. 10 mana paladin spell that says summon 7 Murlocs that died this game. When I first saw this card, it was in a comments on Facebook, and I thought someone just made a custom card to make some kind of a joke, and I didn't really pay attention to it. But later, when I found out that this was a real card and it was about to be released, I was like, what in the world is going on, Blizzard? So anyway, I'm pretty sure this card will see play in some kind of experimental decks, though I'm not really sure if Murloc Paladin can be a thing. I'm guessing they saw that Murloc Knight did really well, so they thought, hey, let's give them the real deal. Yeah, turns out anything can happen. Next, we have Everything is Awesome. This time it's a 7 mana shaman spell. Give your minions +2/+2, costs 1 less for each Murloc you control. I think a spell like this makes more sense in shaman than it would in paladin. I also think it's better than Anything Can Happen, because realistically you're more likely to have a board of a few Murlocs and then play this spell for like 4 mana, giving them +2/+2, and that's just Murlocs. Let's say you have another random totem on the board, so for 4 mana you're getting 16 worth of stats. That's pretty crazy, where with Anything Can Happen you need to have an empty board and you need to have 7 Murlocs that die this game, which is not so likely. Overall, Everything is Awesome is a pretty cool card, and I hope that Shaman finally sees some play on the ladder. Hopefully this card will be the reason for that. Finally, we have Sir Finally Muggleton. First ever 1 mana legendary. This guy is pretty cool. It's a 1/3 Murloc that has a Battlecry where you get to discover a basic hero power. Wow! Discover is a new keyword. It's basically like tracking, where you get to choose between 3 options, in this case hero powers. Anyway, I expect this guy to see play in Murloc Shaman decks, where you can play him late game, where it synergizes with everything is awesome, but you can also play him turn 1 and get the OP mage or paladin hero power. I would say that's pretty good. Really looking forward to all the Murloc Synergy, and hopefully I get to try out some of these decks. For the end of this video, I want to mention 2 really good warrior comments. The first one is Fierce Monkey, 3 mana 3/4 with taunt, so it's like a better spider tank. Not much to say about this card. I'm just glad they made these good standalone cards and that they're supporting the whole Arena Warriors Matter thing. The other card is Obsidian Destroyer, 7 mana 7/7, that summons a 1/1 Scarab with taunt at the end of your turn. So the 1/1 actually protects the 7/7 body in a way. In Constructed, it's not gonna see play over Dr. Boom, but still, in Arena, this card is far above average. So that's really good for warrior lovers. And that's about it, guys. I feel like I covered all the cards I wanted to. If you made it to the end of this video, congratulations, because even I wouldn't listen to myself talking this much. Anyway, as always, make sure you guys leave a comment on what cards you like and anticipate the most. Also, comment on what you think about this review. Click the like button if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Wow, is it hot or what?